each and every time. Guys, Hugo Ekitike. Um, you know what? What I would say is I think there was links to Ekitike from Newcastle, I believe, last season. And again, a lot of the noise was if Alexander Isak, if he does go out, Ekitike is a ready-made replacement. And I think it's clear now, obviously, the news that we've seen today, that Newcastle have had a 70 million bid rejected. And I think it's obvious to see that, Eintracht Frankfurt are looking for that 84 million, which I think they've been looking for all summer, really. And I think if we look at Newcastle and the money they have, I think that's going to be the bid that's going to get it over the line. I think the next bid that Newcastle come in with, and Gamer, let me know what you think as well, because I think Ekitike was someone that we were speaking about, and it's looking like, they're going to be getting him in at all costs, and I think that's going to be a very good signing to go with Isak, who we're going to get onto in a bit anyway. But yeah, let me know what you think. But as I said, I think with Ekitike, I think that 84 million bid, at first I thought there's no one that's going to pay that amount of money for Ekitike. And not because Ekitike isn't a good player, but it's a lot of money to pay for someone that is still relatively, unproven, I would say. I know he's done bits in Europe, and obviously had a good season with Eintracht Frankfurt season just gone. But to pay 84 million, and I think he's about 23, I think, to pay that amount of money. I think he's 20. I think he's 23. He might be 22 or 23. But I think to pay that amount of money, I didn't really see that one coming. But I think Newcastle's next bid, to know that 70 million was rejected, and I think what will be interesting to see is if it was 70 million up front, or was it, the 60 million with installments, because I think personally, if they offer, possibly 75, and then a potential 7.5 in add-ons, but realistic ones, I think that could get the deal sealed for me, Big up to Barbara Joseph and big up to Sham each and every time. And again, it's funny that obviously Sham and Gamer, you're both in there, and it's looking like both of your teams are going head to head for Hugo Ekitike, and I think if Liverpool get him, that's going to be a big signing for them in terms of central strikers, and obviously at the moment only Darwin Núñez is there. That is probably the more recognised one. So definitely they're looking for another striker, and I think it'd be interesting to see if Darwin Núñez does actually get moved on. But I think with what's his name, with Ekitike, I think if he goes to Newcastle, I think that makes Newcastle. I'll go as far as say, I expect Newcastle to at least be in third place. I think at the moment, I think it's touch and go between Chelsea and possibly Arsenal. But I think if Newcastle get Ekitike, I think they're still going to get possibly one more. I'd have to say that top three, if we're looking at Liverpool and City as a top two, I think Newcastle and Chelsea definitely. And then obviously Arsenal going to fancy their chances as well. So I think it's a massive signing if Newcastle was to get him. Big up to Ewan the Jude. So Ewan the Jude says Salah or Núñez. You can't really compare them, because one's a wide forward, one's a striker. So I like to do player for player in terms of positions identical. So yeah, you can't really compare Salah and Núñez. Guys, I will get back to your questions, but big up yourselves for coming through. Obviously, there's 12 of you watching at the moment, so just make sure you smash that like button, help the channel to grow, and make sure you sub to the channel. So I'm 20 away, guys, from, 21 away, should I say, from 1,200 subscribers. So big up yourselves, and if you're enjoying the stream, smash that like button. And as I said, make sure you sub to the channel. So yeah, as I said, I think Ekitike for me will be a great signing for Newcastle. You know, if they want to rest Isak, because obviously they're going to have Champions League football as well. You know, that'd be a good signing to help him out as well. And even, you know, they can play both of them up front if need be, you know, if they're chasing the game. But although, as I said, if Liverpool do get him, you know, I'd have to say that might take Liverpool just slightly ahead of Man City with that signing, you know, because I do think the business that both teams have done, you know, at this moment, I'm having City as the slight favourites. But I think if Liverpool get the striker in, then I'd have to go as far and say that they're in the driving seat for the title for me. You know, but again, things can change. But I think it's definite Liverpool for me if they get him over the line. Big up to Broderick as well. Big up, bro. Guys, I'm going to go through some of your questions. And then I want you guys to let me know where you think Ekitike is going to end up. And we're going to get on to Alexander Isak as well. Because obviously there's been news about him today. I want you guys to let me know what you think. So, as I said, big up to all the newcomers coming through and keep your questions coming. Sham says Newcastle won't be playing with two strikers. For Newcastle to pay 75 million plus Ekitike, he won't be a backup striker. Yeah, Sham, as I said, man, we're gonna get into because obviously that's obviously mentioning Alexander Isak. So I'm gonna go through all the questions first and foremost, and then we're gonna touch on Isak as well. But big up, man. Big up to Sunny Stringy VR Goat says, give me a shout out, please. I'll give £5 or dollars. Yeah, big up, Sunny, man. You've got your shout out. So yeah, obviously, just if you got anything positive to say on the channel, then keep your comments coming in. Sham says, if Isak stays, we will go for Ekitike. If we can get Isak, then Newcastle will get Ekitike. Yeah, I think that's the obvious one. You know, I think, as I said, I'll get into the Isak talk in a bit. But obviously, Newcastle have had a 70 million bid rejected, as some of you have probably seen already. And it's looking like that Eintracht Frankfurt are going to be pushing Newcastle to pay the 84 mil. But I think, as I said, I think if they can, you know, get a bid of 75 mil plus realistic add-ons, you know, probably about 7 mil in add-ons probably, or maybe 5 million, I think that could possibly get the deal over the line. But I think Liverpool obviously had a bid for Luis Diaz rejected today. Obviously, whether I think Bayern have made him their top target, you know, so whether they come back in with another bid, obviously, which is to be expected, then we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Top Dog says Leeds for Champions League place this season. I think Top Dogs must be drinking because if I'm honest with you, I reckon that the promoted teams, as I've said earlier, I think they all go back down. You know, because I think all the I think the gap between the Premiership teams and the Championship teams, as I said, I think it's getting wider and wider. So I expect all the promoted teams to struggle this season. So Champions League place for Leeds. I mean, that would be great for Leeds, but yeah, that's not going to happen. So Ewan, the DJ dude, says you're the only one that can say my name right. Yeah, listen, it's not hard, man. Obviously, I'm guessing you must be Welsh. You must be Welsh. When it comes to pronunciations of names, yeah, I usually get them spot on, man. You know, but I'm guessing your name's Welsh. But big up, man. Anyway, big up to Jackie McKee. So Jackie says Luis Diaz is transferring to Bayern Munich. Do you think good transfer or bad one? Big up to Jackie. So again, I think Liverpool have made it clear that, you know, they don't want to lose Luis Diaz. I mean, I've got a bit of a different take on it, which I'm going to say in a minute. But in terms of Bayern Munich trying to get him in, I mean, it's quite obvious that Bayern Munich have got a massive hole on that left-hand side, because you look at Leroy Sané moving to Galatasaray, and then you've got the likes of Kingsley Coman and Serge Gnabry. Obviously, they're getting on a bit now. And I think, again, their best days are behind them. So I think Luis Diaz is an obvious one, and again, Rodrigo will be another one that will be heavily linked if he indicates he wants to leave Real Madrid. So yeah, I mean, I can see Diaz being a very good signing for Bayern Munich, but it's going to cost them a bit more money than what they've offered. I think 50 something million that they've offered. I think you're looking at closer to 70 million for Liverpool to even consider. And again, I think they don't want to lose him. My take on it is that I think if Liverpool get rid of Diaz, that puts them in the ring for Rodrigo if Rodrigo becomes available, because I can't see Rodrigo staying. So I think there's definitely going to be movement on Rodrigo. So yeah, I reckon that could be something to watch out for. But yeah, to answer your question, that'd be a very good signing for Bayern Munich. Because I do think Diaz is a good player, and obviously he's someone that Bayern Munich desperately need in that part of the pitch. So yeah. So Ewan says, I know I just asked a question about Liverpool players, but I'm an Everton fan. Okay, yeah, big up, man. Let me ask you a question. How do you think Everton will do this season? Obviously, moving to the new stadium, Bramley Moore Dock. Can you see Everton trying to become one of the powerhouses in English football for years to come? Let me know what you think, man. So big up to Harvey. Harvey says maybe Eddie wants to play two up top. I mean, I can't see it. I think it's more going to be a case of rotation, because Isak's clearly the number one striker, and I think Ekitike is going to be used more for, I'll say more rotation. And again, he's someone that can play wide as well. And I think they're going to have a lot of games this season, and again, if they're chasing games, who knows, he might go two up top, and again, you can look at it as well as a contingency plan, because obviously Newcastle today have said that that Isak's not for sale, which again isn't a surprise, but I think it's a contingency plan. If they get Ekitike and then you've got Isak indicating that he does want to move on, I think this is where they're going to be looking at Ekitike as a smart signing, because you're going to have someone that is going to be a ready-made replacement if Isak does decide he wants to move on, and you're going to have the money for Isak as well. So I think they want to get him as more of a contingency plan in case the worst happens, And just going on Isak, as I did say, on a previous few streams, there's no way Newcastle are going to let him go, because I know they want Ekitike, and we've just spoken about the contingency plan. But the market now with strikers, there isn't really that many strikers that can replace what Isak offers Newcastle. So for Newcastle to sell him, you're going to have to spend about 70 to 80 million, maybe more than that, on another striker. Hence why they're going for Ekitike. So again, now that Newcastle have said he's not for sale, Newcastle now have to give him a new contract, because you can't just say he's not for sale and then keep his contract how it is. So as I said before, guys, don't be surprised if Isak's next contract puts him in the bracket of 250, because again, I've obviously, Bruno Guimaraes is the highest paid, I believe, at 160. Isak's gonna smash that by quite a way, in my opinion. So don't be surprised if Isak's on 250, because his representatives as well will know what the going rate is for one of the world's best strikers right now. So they'll be very silly to not ask for at least 250 in negotiations. So the fact that Newcastle says not for sale, I think they enter contract talks very soon, So yeah. So Harvey says, do you think my club stays up, Wolves? Yeah, I think Wolves will stay up. I know they've lost Cunha. I know they've lost Ain't Nuri. They're two best players, you would say. But to be fair, they've got Strand Larson. Strand Larson got goals season just gone, and he's a decent striker. I think the two midfielders, I think a lot of teams need to be aware of Wolves' two midfielders, because in a transfer window, where there's mad prices going around for certain midfielders, I think if you look at Andre and you look at João Gomez, two Brazilians, they're two of the better midfielders that might be available for slightly less than what you're going to pay for like a Baleba or a Adam Wharton, you know, or Edison. So I think they're two midfielders that people need to be looking out for because I think they can go and do a job at most teams in the league, most of the top teams in the league. So I think with them two in the midfield, Strand Larson, you know, I think Pereira, the manager, showed like, you know, how he got them playing. You know, I think they'll be all right, Wolves. You know, I think they'll be good. I think a top half finish might be difficult, but I think definitely they won't go down in my opinion. So yeah, but big up. Gamer says I have no idea who will get Ekitike. It's hard to predict, and I don't see Isak leaving this window, even if we get Ekitike. Yeah, big up, Gamer. As I said, Isak's been told he's not leaving, so the new contract's going to come his way. And as I said, you know, the only way Liverpool, because they're the rumour team that actually want him. I believe even if Liverpool was to offer 120 for Isak, I believe Newcastle still turn that down. As mad as that sounds, you know, so. There was no way Newcastle were going to let Isak go because you don't get Champions League football and, you know, you don't get Champions League football and then you just let one of your top players go, you know. The only way he goes is for just ridiculous money, which is going to break the transfer record. So it's not a surprise that he's not for sale because you don't sell a player that just had the season that Isak's just had. And if they add Ekitike, it's great business, man. Great business. Sham says, Wolves will struggle. Are you from the black country? Okay. Yeah, listen. I disagree, Sham. I don't think Wolves struggle. You know, I think a lot of people have said that Wolves are gonna go down because they lost Cunha and Ait Nouri. But I actually think Wolves will be all right. You know, I actually think they'll be cool. And I think their manager, as I said, has shown that he can get a team, you know, being relatively compact and having threats in the final third of the pitch. So the fact they've lost Cunha and Ait Nouri's creativity, I think, you know, they'll get some players that might offer a different threat, but probably make themselves a bit more solid, you know. And I think they'll be all right. Big up to Danny Mackinoff. Yeah, big up, Danny, man. Big up, bro, for coming back on again. Guys, make sure you smash the like button on your way in. There's 9 of you watching. Let's smash the like button and let's subscribe to the channel. Obviously, keep your support coming in. It's always appreciated. Big up to Abdallah as well. In brackets, Cundinho. Yeah, big up, Abdallah. Big up, man. So Abdallah says, I think 150 million might seal the deal for Isak. Again, Abdallah, this is exactly what I said. I think the only way Newcastle would get listening to a bid for Isak is for 150 mil, which there's no way for me Liverpool are going to offer because Liverpool just broken the transfer record for Florian Wirtz. And for me, I don't see them spending another 150 million on Isak. I don't see it. I think the only way they could possibly put a bid in for Isak is if Luis Diaz and Darwin Núñez move on. And then that way you've got space on the wage bill. Even though Diaz ain't on mad money, he's on like 55 grand, which is a joke. And then you've got funds to spend. But I think other than that, I don't see Liverpool doing that. No way. So, yeah, Newcastle are in the driving seat, really. And as Sham said earlier, you know, if Liverpool been told no for Isak, I can see them. Well, obviously they are competing with Ekitike, and I think the difference is Ekitike I reckon Ekitike has got a slot waiting for him at Liverpool where he can just go in straight away and possibly start, because even though Darwin Núñez is there, I think it's quite obvious that Arne Slot doesn't rate Darwin Núñez. So I think Ekitike, looking at Liverpool, he'll come in and start straight away. at Newcastle, he knows he's not going to be first choice. So it just depends what he sees as his aspirations, really. But as I said, Newcastle getting if Newcastle get Ekitike in, that's a great signing for them because it's a contingency plan just in case Isak starts angling for a move. So yeah, I think that'll be what Newcastle will be looking at. Harvey says Zhao is quality, but Andre was very average last season. Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I like Zhao Gomez. I do actually think he's a good player. Obviously, Brazilian international. From what I see of Andre, and again, you're and again, man, like you're probably best placed to see it because you probably watch more of Wolves than I did. But from what I see of Andre is very good, you know, and I think that Brazilian combination of those two, you know, I think you can go as far as saying, you know, that's probably the best partnership from the bottom clubs, I would say, in the league. So I think if they have a good season again, I can see probably both of them moving on. If I'm honest, you know. Sorry guys, just in a random question from Daniel Garcia says, do you wear 100% cotton zip hoodies? I do. What's your point? But big up, man. Big up for coming on. Luis Diaz wants to leave Bayern. Bayern and Barca are the most likely suitors. Yeah, I think Luis Diaz, if he does leave, I can see it being Bayern Munich. You know, because Barca haven't got that money to spend on Diaz for what Liverpool wants. You know, and Bayern Munich are looking for a big name signing, you would say, in that position. And I think Diaz probably offers that. And again, guys, Diaz is not on a big wage, so he's going to be more affordable in that sense. You know? Yeah, Danny, man, big up. Big up for yourself for coming on again. No problem. Big up to FUT Elite as well. Guys, come on, make sure you smash the like button. There's 9 of you in there, 7 likes. 10 of you in there. Smash the like button and subscribe to the channel. Big up yourself. So Sham says Barca will go for Rashford, so the only teams that will go for Diaz is Bayern or a Saudi club. Yeah, and I agree with that. I mean, I think the whole Rashford and Barca one, I don't think Barca desperately want Rashford. I think they desperately want a left winger, you know, because obviously Ansu Fati's gone out on loan, you know, and they need reinforcements in that position there. But I think Rashford's just the most obvious one in terms of what's out there available. But the problem is Barca only want a loan deal for Rashford because Barca would want United to cover the wages. And then, as I said, they would want to see how he does because they wouldn't want to be lumbered with Rashford if Rashford doesn't do anything there. So yeah, I can see them doing a loan deal definitely, but it needs the wages need to be covered half by Man United. There's no way Barca are going to pay money and then get Rashford on loan or an option to buy. I think Barca want to have the advantage in terms of them being able to say what they want to do with Rashford, you know. And I think a loan deal is best for all parties. But yeah, there'll be no fee involved for me. It'll be just a straight loan deal if United can cover half the wages, you know. So Danny says, just watched my goal against Sturm Graz in 2010 in pre-season. Jeez. Big up, Danny, man. Big up. Big up. But guys, yeah, just going back to what we were saying about the Ekitike and Alexander Isak as well. So, yeah, for me, Alexander Isak, obviously news come out today, as we've spoken about earlier, that Newcastle have said that he's not for sale. And I just wonder how Isak feels about that because, you know, I think Isak is happy at Newcastle. And again, Gamer, you'll know more than me because, as I say, you're a Newcastle fan. I mean, what's the general feeling around Newcastle in regards to Isak? Because I think he's, from what I've seen, he's one of their most popular players, and the fact that Newcastle said he's now not for sale, do you think that Isak is going to be unhappy with that, or do you think he'll be content to just stay there? Because I believe he'll be content, you know, and he'll be looking for a new contract definitely if they're gonna say that. And I just believe that he might be looking at Newcastle as a club that are going places. You know, they've got arguably the richest owners in football, but as we know, you know, with PSR and that, you know, they can't just go out and spend willy-nilly due to other factors. But as I said, I think Isak does need to get a new contract, and he needs to get a new big contract. And I think the new contract he gets, I think that's gonna tie him down for his best years at the club, you know. And as I said, yeah, I can see that happening definitely. But yeah, gamer, let me know what you think, man. Let me know what you think, guys. Keep your questions coming in as well. Keep your questions coming in. Let me know what you think about Ekitike. So Danny says, what year did you play for Grays, Gav? Do you know what? Good question, man. I can't actually remember now. I'm not even too sure. I want to say early 2000s. I'll give you an example, Danny. The manager at the time, the first team manager at the time, was a guy called Mark Stimpson. Don't know if you remember him. Mark Stimpson. He was the manager at the time. But yeah, that was early 2000s. Yeah, sorry guys. Yeah, guys. Other news around obviously the Premier League. You know, I didn't really want to get onto this, but you know, it's I've spoken about this before. Obviously, there's been a delay on the Embuemo, and again, I'm not really too fussed, guys, because I see United getting this deal over the line eventually, but just the length of time it's taken, and just the complete mess around, it's just made this transfer window boring now. So in terms of Man United, and again, as I keep saying, if I'm Brentford, you know, just because United are just messing around, I'm upping the price. You know, Mbeumo's obviously back in training now as well for pre-season. So if Brentford have got anything about them, you know, I think Brentford should have a word with Mbeumo, regardless if it's gonna upset Mbeumo or not. I think personally, what they should do is say to Mbeumo, look, we don't want to lose you. Like, you know, we value you highly. And give United an ultimatum in terms of what date to make an acceptable bid. You know, I think that's what Brentford should do. And if it's a case where they up the money, then they're well within their rights to do that, because they haven't got to sell Mbeumo. This is the thing. And I think just because United are messing around, trying to lowball Brentford for me should play hardball with them. You know, and this coming from a Man United fan, I'm just telling you the reality of what of how much this club's just messing around at the moment. You know, so it's annoying. Sham says it's blowing up about Kanate wanting to go to Real Madrid. Yeah, I mean, I don't really take that seriously, if I'm honest. You know, I don't see Kanate leaving Liverpool. You know, I don't see it. I mean, until he comes out and says he wants to go, then I think a lot of it is just speculation because he hasn't signed a new contract, you know. But who knows? Maybe Liverpool at the moment are not meeting his demands, you know. And I think they'll be very silly to not meet his demands unless they've got someone that is ready to come in and fill his shoes. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it remains to be seen, man. But I do think I can't see Kanate going to Real Madrid. I know there's rumours, obviously, of him running down his contract. But, yeah, I can't see it. I can't see it. I think he's going to eventually sign. I think it just depends on... I think it just depends on the money on offer, you know. So, guys, let me know what you think about Alexander Isak as well. Do you think Isak right now is the best number 9 in Europe, or do you think that belongs to other players? Let me know what you think. Who's the best 9 in Europe? Who's the best 9? Do you think that the Premier League has the best 9s in the world right now as well? Sham says, if the likes of Kudus, Pedro, and Elanga are going for 55 to 60 mil, then Brentford have the right to ask for 65. Yeah, listen, Sham, I make you right, man. I'd even go as far and say, why wouldn't they ask for 70? Why not? Because he's in demand. But they know that Man United desperately want him. And just for the fuck around, why don't United just say, look, we're now valuing at 70 mil? Why wouldn't they do that? You know? Why don't Brentford, do that? You know? Broderick says Kane. Danny reckons Isak. Kane and Isak. Best 9s in the game right now. Yeah, to be honest with you, I can't really argue that. You know, I think Kane and Isak, for me, Lewandowski has to be up there still as well. I'm surprised no one said Erling Haaland, you know, because Erling Haaland for me isn't, I mean, he does get numbers, don't get me wrong, but I think as an all-round footballer, I don't rate Haaland that highly, you know, but as an absolute goal machine, he has to be respected. But, yeah, for me, Kane and Isak, I can't really argue disagree with that. I think Lewandowski for me as well has to be in there just for his longevity as well. So Kudus, Pedro, and Elanga all gone for, yeah, exactly. So yeah, 150 mil is a lot for Isak. It's a hell of a lot of money. And as I said, that's the only way I believe Newcastle sell. But that's the only way Newcastle sell. But if they're coming out saying that he's not for sale, maybe 150 mil might not even get him. So I think that's their way of saying, yeah, we're not parting ways with Isak. And to be honest with you, you can't really blame them, because it's costing them at least 80 mil to try and get a replacement in, you know. So yeah, you can't really blame them as such. Yeah. But guys, yeah, keep bringing me your questions. Obviously, we're going to go for another 10 minutes. Only going to be a quick one tonight. But yeah, we're going to go for another 10 minutes. Yeah, as I said, gamer man, I agree. I don't think they want 100. I don't think they'll sell for 150 mil. You know, I don't believe either. Big up to Blue Edits, says, why are Man United so quiet in this transfer window? It's honestly frustrating. I mean, there's many factors, you know. Maybe because the board, I mean, people might say they're incompetent, you know, and you can't really argue that at the moment. I don't really know. I don't really know. You know, I wanna be positive with Ineos, to be honest with you, because so far the players they've signed, bar Ugarte, I've been happy with. You know, the new contract, to Bruno, but again, that wasn't really Ineos. That was Dan Ashworth, which is why I believe he went. You know, but the fact that Bruno wasn't forced out, that's another mark against their name. But personally, yeah, I think they've done good in terms of the players they've brought in. But this Mbeumo one is, for me, is taking them a step back, you know. So, yeah, I just think, yeah, I agree with you, man. It is frustrating. It's I think right now it's boring, you know, and it's kind of, it's kind of draining just talking about United and their signings, because this signing should have been wrapped up and then we move on to someone else. And the problem is now, if Mbeumo gets wrapped up, I don't actually know who the next target's going to be. I know who the next target should be, but again, we're just not sure because they haven't been linked to anyone else, really. You know, there's talk about a keeper. No keeper's coming in to replace Onana. Onana's going to stay. And again, it's the outgoings, which is a problem. So I think as soon as Man United get a few outgoings going, you know, Rashford and Garnacho especially, then and Hoyland, I think he definitely get him out of there because he's shit. Then I think maybe you might see some movement, or you might see something a lot quicker. But at this moment in time, yeah, I have to agree with you, man. It is frustrating. Big up to DXR as well. Big up, bro. So Blue Edit says, at least we haven't splashed 100 million on a flop, which is better, I guess. I think what it is, yeah. Blue Edits for me, United must have had targets in mind, which we all know who the targets were. You know, Liam Delap was the primary striker target. Obviously, he went to Chelsea. You know, obviously, Gyökeres for me was a target for the manager. I don't believe for the club. And again, I'm not too fussed that Gyökeres is going to Arsenal because I'm not really a massive fan of Gyökeres. I know he's got goals, you know, in Portugal, but I'm not a massive fan of his game. So that one there has not really fussed me, really. But the other targets, I mean, Cunha, as we know, was a no-brainer. Same with Mbeumo. But apart from those two that are on the that have either signed or on the verge, I don't actually know who the other targets are, which is quite scary. I'm hoping Ineos have got a plan and they're just keeping it quiet because they're just going to surprise us with a few bids for some of them players. But I think at this moment in time now, it's kind of hard to judge what their plan is, you know. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see, man. So Sham says Amarim doesn't like playing Xerxes and Hoyland. Xerxes and Hoyland can't even lace up his own boots. Where is the urgency to buy a striker? And again, Sham, you know what? I don't actually think there's a massive urgency to get a striker. I never have done. Because for me, Jean-Philippe Mateta I like, but there's been no links to him. I think it's criminal for United to just go out and get any striker. I think the likes of Ekitike and that, they're unrealistic to get because they're going to cost too much money. Osman, again, he's going to Galatasaray because of his wage that he wants. Gyökeres we already mentioned. So I don't want United just bringing in any striker just because they need a striker, personally, you know. Because as I said, you know, and I'll keep saying this, Joshua Zirkzee is a striker. He's there. I'm tired of seeing people say he's not a striker when he is. He's just not your typical striker that a lot of people have become accustomed with, you know. So Joshua Zirkzee is a striker, you know, and should be restored to be playing back as a striker. Mbeumo, if he comes in, can play there, and the same with Cunha. So for me, I would just like United to get another number 10 in, along with Mbeumo coming in as well, and then just get a couple of central midfielders. And for me, I'd look at that as a decent window. So I don't think there's an urgency to buy a striker as such. Because, as I said, when you've got wide forwards that score goals in Mbeumo and Cunha, you don't need a goal-scoring striker. You don't. You just need a striker that can facilitate for the wide forwards, and then he'll chip in with goals and assists as well. That's how it works. So all these people that are saying United desperately need a striker, it's not a necessity for me. Definitely not. Because goals will be shared around the team, you know. And I give you the example back when Cristiano Ronaldo come to Man United. You know, Ronaldo came in, you know, and Man United was scoring more goals before he arrived. As soon as he came in, he hogged up all the goals, and the goals dried out throughout the team, you know, because he just came in and everything was revolved around him. But then the team lose out. And again, United recorded one of their lowest goal scoring tallies in a season. And that's with the mighty Cristiano Ronaldo in the team. So, again, you don't need a goal-scoring striker if you've got goal scorers from out wide, which is why Mbeumo is a key signing because of that factor. You know, if Mbeumo wasn't to come in and then United get another number 10 but a more of a creator, then, again, go in for a striker to get goals. I see that. But at this moment in time now, the striker isn't a necessity for me in terms of it's a striker or nothing, you know. So, and look, good news for you, gamer. 12 million fee agreed with Leeds for Sean Longstaff. So extra bit of money coming in. And I reckon Newcastle going to get another midfielder as cover probably, you know. So, yeah. So DXR says, I wonder where United will finish this season. You know what? I think we done this yesterday, me and Jonas, our prediction. So my prediction for my top 8, I'm gonna say, and this is a tough top 8. I'm gonna say the top 2 is nailed on for me, City and Liverpool in that order. But again, signings in this window still can change things in the order. But I'm gonna say City, Liverpool, the top 2. Third, as it stands, I'm gonna say Chelsea, and again, I expect Chelsea with the money that they've got over this Club World Cup to then spend on a couple more players. Fourth, for me, I'm going to say it's going to be between Newcastle and Arsenal. And then fifth, okay, so fourth, I'm going Newcastle. Fifth, I'm going Arsenal. Sixth, I'm going to say Aston Villa. No, sorry. I think 6th, Tottenham. 7th, Aston Villa. And 8th, I want to say Man United if they get their act together. And again, that order could change depending on transfers coming in, you know. But I'm going to say that'll be the top 8. And then you got likes of Brighton. I think Brighton might finish just outside that. But again, you know, who knows? Brighton could be higher. You know, are Forest going to sustain what they've done last season? I mean, they've lost their 2 of their key players in terms of numbers as well. So, yeah. But who knows, man? It's going to be very competitive. I think this could be one of the most competitive league seasons for a while. I reckon, you know. So DXR reckons 10th. I think as it stands now, and again, for me, a lot of it depends on because I don't believe this manager sees out the season. So if the manager doesn't see out the season, you know, I would go as far and say I see United finishing higher than with this manager in place, because I just don't think this manager is the manager that I thought he was, regardless of players not coming in. I've seen a lot from Man United last season, and there was fundamental errors that this manager was making. So I don't believe he lasts the season. And if he doesn't last the season and United get someone else in, you know, and they revert back to the 4 and just start playing the right players, then I'll be a bit more optimistic in saying that United might finish higher. But as it stands now, I think 8th to 10th for United, maybe, yeah. So Sham says, I know about Xerxes, but Amorim keeps playing Højlund even when he was on 20-game goal drought. And again, Sham, this is why the manager should be sacked sacked on the spot just because of that. You know, I think when he was doing that, you have to believe he was doing that to show Ineos that this guy just ain't good enough. But then in the same sense, he's sabotaging himself. So whether he was looking at the season as a free hit, in a sense where he's playing Højlund as much as he can to show Ineos that he needs reinforcements. If he was doing that, fair enough. But if he was doing that because he actually genuinely thought Højlund had a right to play there, then again, he should have been sacked for that alone. So, yeah, for a manager to play a striker that was on a 20-game goal drought is concerning, because it's showing me that he can't even see the problems. And again, it's not all about goal scoring. You know, the problem that I have with Højlund is that his general game was poor. So if he's not scoring goals, I mean, I wouldn't mind if his general game was poor, but he was putting the ball in the back of the net. He weren't doing that, and his general play was poor. I mean, he spent most of his time on his arse, you know, and for someone of his build, you know, it ain't good enough. So this is why the manager is in serious trouble with me, really, because how you can allow Højlund to play as much as he did is nothing short of criminal. So, yeah, and that's another reason why, for me, he just can't be here for the long term, you know. So Sham says, I totally get what you mean. We had Diaz playing the number 9 position. But again, Sham, the reason why Diaz can play as the 9 is because he's playing as a false 9 because you've got wide forwards. This is what I'm trying to explain. You don't necessarily need a goal-scoring striker if you've got wide forwards. And Mo Salah's a prime example. Mo Salah's a goal-scoring wide forward. So if you was to go and get a goal-scoring number 9, that just means that someone's going to miss out, you know. And you would think that because a lot of the play goes through Salah, if you got a number 9 striker that wants to get goals, it's not going to happen where Salah's going to get 60 goals or 50 goals and then the number 9 striker will get 50 or 40. That's not going to happen. It just means someone's going to lose out. And this is why combinations are key, you know. And the fact that Diaz played as a false 9, Diaz wasn't tasked with getting goals. He was tasked with facilitating the attack because you had Diaz as the false 9, Cody Gakpo as a wide forward, and obviously Mo Salah. So that combination works because if you're going to look at the Firmino, Salah, and Mane, you've got Mane and Salah who are the wide forwards. Firmino's the false 9. So that works because your goals are coming from out wide, and your number 9 can drop back into midfield and link the attack, which is why, as I keep saying, Joshua Zirkzee is perfect for that when you've got the likes of Mbeumo and Cunha either side, you know. So, yeah, that's how it works, you know. So, Gamer says, I see Chelsea and City and Liverpool battling top 3. I see Newcastle 4th if they get the players. And I agree. I think Chelsea, for me, will only battle City and Liverpool if they go and sort out that left-hand side. If they go and get, for example, a Rodrigo, then I put them amongst City and Liverpool to compete for the title. That's how big of a signing the Rodrigo one is going to be for me, you know. So DXR says, guys, let's not underestimate Arsenal. Bro, there's no underestimating Arsenal. They're shit. Let's be honest. I mean, the fact that they've kept Arteta is laughable in itself. The fact that they've actually sanctioned to go and get Noni Madueke is laughable as well. So there's no underestimating. I expected Arsenal to go out and do serious business. And even if they get Gyökeres, you know, who will make them more potent up top, they're going to have a problem, as I keep saying, because what do you do with Kai Havertz, who's their highest paid player? So, yeah, they're going to have a better squad, you would probably think. But that 11 that they're going to play is going to be interesting because certain players are going to miss out. And, yeah, that's the problem. Because to spend 55 mil on Madueke, he has to start. Because I can't believe Madueke is going to come in to be on the bench. And we all know he's not going to start on that right-hand side where Saka is. So that means you're going to have Martinelli, who's on 180 grand a week, on the bench. And then you're going to have Trossard on the bench. So is that going to happen? We'll have to wait and see, man. But it's going to be interesting one way or another. So, yeah, they're on the verge of signing Gyökeres. That's going to get over the line. That will definitely get over the line for me. Big up to Daniela Iacona as well. Big up to Jiggy481. Big up, Jiggy. Eintracht Frankfurt fan. Jiggy, let me know what you think about Ekitike. Do you think Ekitike is worth the 84 million that Frankfurt want? Do you reckon he's worth that? Let me know, man. And guys, let's not forget as well, Ekitike is a former PSG striker as well. So PSG signed Ekitike from Reims in France. And obviously, he wasn't getting game time because they had the certain Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe there. But Ekitike was at PSG. So the thing that he's going for 84 million now is absolutely crazy, really, you know. But yeah, Jiggy, let me know what you think about Ekitike. Do you think he's worth Newcastle or Liverpool signing him for 84 mil? Yeah, no problem, Daniela. Big up yourself for coming on. So Jiggy says, I think Hugo needs one additional year at Frankfurt to make the next big step. Right now, he is still an improvement in motion or made. In Newcastle, he will perform. He will need to perform immediately. If now, bench will his place. Okay. Big up to Jiggy. But Jiggy, yeah, what I would say with Ekitike, I think you could be right with that one, him having another season, because again, he could be, a one-hit wonder, and next season he might flop. But what I would say, I'm looking at Newcastle as getting him in early, because as I said, the striker market, isn't that great. Ekitike is at a good age as well. And as I said, I think if Newcastle get him in and they've still got Isak there as well, they're going to have two strikers that are two of the better strikers in Europe. So they're going to be covered for that position, which is why I think they're trying to get him in now. But I think in an ideal solution, I think him staying there for another season is probably good for his development. But Newcastle, I think, will get him in because, as I said, it's in case Isak starts making noise to go. I mean, if Isak gets put on a new contract, then again, Newcastle are covered there, because they can afford to ask for top money for him if he wanted to go, or he might get a bad injury. You never know. But and again, Liverpool want him because they need a striker. So I can see why they're going for him. But I think you might have a point in saying that he should definitely stay for another season. But big up, man. So Sham says Martinelli's on. Yeah, listen, Martinelli's on 180 a week. Yeah, madness. So Martinelli's on 180. Kai Havertz is on 280. So this is the problem that Arsenal have in terms of bringing in players that are going to be saying that they need to be more money than both of them players, which is why I think again it's going to be interesting to see how much Gyökeres is going to be on, because I reckon Gyökeres. I'll be very surprised if Gyökeres is on less than 200 grand a week. I'll be very surprised, so that's one to watch for me. And if you're an Arsenal fan in there, let me know what you think about how much Gyökeres might be on. Yeah, listen, Arsenal, DXR, it's either Arsenal pay their players well, or their negotiators are just dumb, because you don't put Martinelli on 180. You don't put him on 180. That is criminal to put Martinelli on 180 and then Havertz on 280. Because 280 is for strikers that get numbers. Not for a number 10 that is playing as a false 9 and is not really going to guarantee you 20 league goals a season. This is the problem. Their wage bill's out of control, but that's their problem, man. So Jiggy says, I love him, but he's not worth that. He's only worth that because our manager makes a good job in regards to negotiation. But again, yeah, I think it's obvious that Ekitike is not worth 84 mil. But again, Frankfurt are going to capitalize on the striker market. So really, realistically, them asking for that, it's a lot of money, but they're going to do that because they know that they've got a striker there that is in high demand. So you can't really blame them, really. Let's be honest, Hugo is not on that same level like Marmoush, but he has massive potential to be a machine. Yeah, listen, Omar Marmoush is a very good player. And, I rate Marmoush highly, that he's actually better for the team as a striker than what Haaland is. But again, Haaland's on that, as we call it, a death row contract, 10-year contract, and gets numbers. So he's going to start, really, realistically. But Marmoush, for me, needs to be figuring in that team because he's a very good player. But again, yeah, you had Marmoush and you had Ekitike, and now it's looking likely that both players are actually moving on. But yeah, I think Ekitike has potential for sure. I mean, how old is he again? I think he might be He's 22 or 23. I think he might be. And I think, yeah, if any of them teams get him, they've got a good striker for the future, I believe. So I think he's got a lot of potential for sure. So Gamer says he would pay 85 million for Ekitike. Well, I think that's what it's going to be to get him over the line. And I do think 84 is a lot of money, but that's if they're saying no to 70. Again, the next bid is going to have to be reaching at least 84. And I reckon, as I said earlier, 75 mil plus, probably 7.5 in add-ons, real estate add-ons. That could get it there. Because I'll be very surprised if Eintracht Frankfurt won 84 million up front. I reckon it could be add-ons that might get the deal sealed, But who knows? Who knows? So for 85 million, I will buy him a flight ticket via Ryanair. Yeah, listen, man. Yeah, I can't disagree, man. That's a lot of money. That is a lot of money. You know what I mean? Maybe you might drive him there yourself, man. But yeah, as I said, 84 million, 85 million is a lot of money for Ekitike. But and this is what I say as well. This will actually tell you if a club really wants a player. So many times we hear a club wants this player, and then you see no bid coming in. The fact that Newcastle bid is 70 mil and it's been turned down, if Newcastle go in with another bid, that will show that they actually want the player. The same with Liverpool. If Liverpool put money on the table for Ekitike, that's going to show that they actually want the player. Because too many times we hear that the club want this player, but there's no bids. So a lot of it is just speculation. So we're going to see how badly Newcastle want Ekitike. And I remember when Luka Jovic smashed it with Frankfurt and Real Madrid paid 60 mil for him. He then flopped. I hope Ekitike don't flop like that if Liverpool get him. Yeah, listen, great comment, Sham. Luka Jovic, if anyone doesn't remember, he had the same hype at Frankfurt. And again, Frankfurt do well with their forward players. You look at Luka Jovic, you look at, what's his name, that went to PSG, Kolo Muani. Now it's then Marmoush. Now it's Ekitike. So Frankfurt do well in terms of their strikers in selling them for big money, And again, Ekitike is the latest one now. And don't be surprised if Frankfurt have another one coming through, that they actually buy. But yeah, Jovic, to say he flopped at Real Madrid, I think is harsh. I think what it was with Real Madrid, he was never really Real Madrid level, because he was more of a fox in the box kind of striker getting numbers at Frankfurt, but he was never Real Madrid quality. And I think he never got given the game time to really show that. So it was a wrong move for him as well, that early in his career. So, but yeah, listen, as I said, man, Frankfurt have had some good business in terms of selling their strikers for a lot of money, So Gamer says, Ekitike would pick Liverpool. It's easier job for him surrounded with top players off the pitch and on the pitch, challenging Premier League title and challenging Champions League. I disagree, Gamer. I think Ekitike, for me, I think if he was to choose Liverpool, it's because there's a slot there that he will feel that he can just step into. Because there's no denying that he will start more for Liverpool right now than he would Newcastle, because Isak's there and Isak's not going to get dropped by anyone. So whereas Darwin Núñez, they're trying to move him on. So the thing is, it's more readily available him going to Liverpool and starting. Not to mention they are the current Premier League champions as well. So, but I reckon it's going to come down to whatever team sells him the best project and where he sees himself playing more regularly, But on the other hand, he might look at Newcastle as a team on the up. He might look at Isak as a striker that he can learn from, and then think that eventually he can take over if Isak was to angle for a move. So again, all these things might be a factor. Sorry, So we have to wait and see what happens there. Big up to Chrism Ark says, it was reported that Gyökeres has already agreed to take a 2 million pay cut to push the deal through. So how much is he going to get paid a week then? That's what I want to know. Because I'll be very surprised, as I said, if he's on less than 200 grand a week. Because if he's on less than 200 grand a week, then he's a better man than I am. Because to see what Havertz is getting paid, and you would think that he's going to come in and score more goals than Havertz. I'll be very surprised if that happens, you know. So DXR says Gyökeres just wants to prove that he can do it in the Premier League. Yeah, I hear that. I hear that. Frankfurt will take advantage of price. I don't blame them. Football is a business now. Bro, listen, football's been a business for a little while. You know what I mean? For a little while. Bro is wounded after his Brighton spell. Who's wounded after their Brighton spell? DXR, who's wounded after the Brighton spell? Who are you talking about there? Oh, Gyökeres. But yeah, I mean, I don't really take the Gyökeres and Brighton one that seriously because I don't think Gyökeres played in the Premiership for Brighton, you know, and obviously he's going to get the chance now to show what he can do, you know. Yeah, listen, Marmoush is a top player, man, top player. He's the next after Salah when Salah's retired. Marmoush will be the golden boy of Egyptian football, easily, you know. Yeah, DXR, bro. Big up, man. Big up for coming on. No worries. Broderick says, do you rate Nico Paz? I think you mentioned him before, Broderick. I know, obviously, he's formerly of Real Madrid. I'll be honest, I've not really watched too much of him. You know, I haven't watched too much of him, but I know you mentioned him before. Again, I've not really seen him being linked to many clubs. So yeah, I can't really say if he's a good player or not because I haven't really seen too much of him. But I believe he's what, a number 10? Is he a number 10? Let us know, man. Let us know. Yeah. But guys, listen up. So Broderick says he's a right winger /10. Okay. Who's he? Is he at Frankfurt on loan from Real Madrid? Because I can't remember. I know. I think there was a move he made, but I can't remember where he actually went to. I can't actually remember where he went to. So yeah, Newcastle looking to break the record for club signing, and again, it's going to eclipse the Isak fee as well. So yeah. He's at Como. He was at Como. Okay, Cesc Fabregas is him. Well, listen, if Cesc Fabregas is signing him, he must have something about him because I think Cesc Fabregas is going to be one of the best coaches in the world inside the next couple of seasons. I think he's going to be managing one of the top teams. So if Fabregas had him, then he must be decent. Gamer says, who do you think will win La Liga, Barca or Real? Barcelona for me, for many reasons. I think I touched on this actually. When Real Madrid got beat by PSG, the reason I believe Real Madrid might struggle is because first and foremost, is Xabi Alonso going to be brave enough to drop either Bellingham, Mbappe, or Vinicius Junior? Because as long as those three play together, Barca are going to struggle against the better teams. So that's going to be a factor. And if he plays the three at the back, which I said he would, you know, something has to give. So, but for me, Barca are going to finish above them. You know, Barca's team's much more balanced. You know, they're obviously looking at reinforcements. They've obviously got a few younger players that played last season coming back as well. So I fancy Barcelona, you know, and I think Lamine Yamal. And again, has Yamal got the number 10 shirt yet? That was vacated by Ansu Fati. I think Yamal's going to go to another level again, you know, more experienced. But as we know, you know, they're looking for a left winger, which I do believe they get one in before the end of the season. And, you know, I think the reason why Rashford's more appealing as well is because Rashford can cover left wing and as a striker. And I think his pace in that league, you know, will cause problems for defenses. I think it's only because Rashford's versatility in terms of playing as a striker and left wing. But they're going to need to get a replacement for Lewandowski permanently anyway. You know. Yeah, listen, but Real Madrid's balance is not there with those three, as I've mentioned. Because there's other players that should be playing, but those three you know, for one reason or another, have big profiles, and this is the issue. Real Madrid need a better holding midfielder. Benham is not good enough. I see him as an attacker. But again, Real Madrid have got holding midfielders. You've got Camavinga, you've got Chouameni, you've got Valverde, who's box to box. You know, those three should be the main midfielders in Real Madrid's team. But as long as they persist with playing Bellingham, and in this three at the back system, Bellingham can't play as a central midfielder, because that central midfielder, you need to be disciplined and you need to be a progressor of the ball, which Bellingham isn't. Bellingham's a box crasher, so really realistically, Bellingham's more suited to playing as one of the front three. But again, he's not going to be effective there. So this three at the back system is going to cause problems for a lot of players, you know. But that's something that that he's got to sort out, Xabi Alonso. So until that happens, I don't know. Yeah, listen, Bellingham needs to be dropped from Bellingham, Mbappe, because Mbappe and Vinicius Junior, you've got two wingers really playing in that team. One plays on the left, one plays as a striker. Then you've got, because the Gonzalo Garcia, I mean, what Xabi Alonso done there was poor really, and I expected better of him, because Garcia's a striker, but because of Mbappe's profile, Garcia had to play on the right hand side, which he doesn't play, you know, and obviously done all of his damage as a central striker, but the manager was just hell bent on playing Mbappe, which meant the team was disjointed. And then you've got Arda Güler and Bellingham playing as 2 8s. I'm a massive fan of Güler, but Güler's a 10, or he's an inverted right winger, not a central midfielder. And then Bellingham, as we know, is a box to box crasher. So midfield, box to box crasher, yeah. So yeah, the whole thing's just unbalanced, but we'll see what happens there. But guys, listen, big up yourselves for coming on each and every time. Obviously, we got 14 likes in there. So if you're still on there and you haven't smashed the like button, make sure you do. And again, if you haven't subbed to the channel, make sure you sub as well. So yeah, as I said, guys, I'm about 21 short of 1,200, so 1.2k subs. So yeah, again, if you enjoy the stream, make sure you check out my other content, and make sure you sub to the channel, and make sure you smash that like button as well. Madrid is doomed. Perez mucked up the Galactico project. Yeah, listen, I think that Galactico project, I mean, that was, for me, the only Galacticos really was the likes of when it had Zidane, R9, Figo, etc., Beckham. Obviously, when they had the likes of Bale, Ronaldo, Benzema, you know, that was a more balanced team. But what I'm seeing now with Real Madrid, the balance ain't there, because they're just trying to fit in too many players, trying to shoehorn too many players in, which is which is mad. So Broderick says, moving on up. Yeah, bro. Listen, as you guys know, I'm here every day, putting the work in, you know, and that's the main thing, man. And obviously, you guys, if you guys are enjoying the content, yeah, I'm happy to give you the free content, man, because as I said, I love talking about football, you know, and you guys interacting with the channel as well is helping the channel going. And as Gamer says, keep grinding, man, and big up, Gamer. Yeah, man. Listen, there's no substitute for hard work, man. So that's what I'm doing with the channel. Yeah, man. Listen, football is I do love football, man. Football's my life. I mean, Kay says you belong to the streets. That's not what your mama said, but still, you know. But yeah, as I said, man. As Gamer says, man, if other YouTubers can do it, why not you? And I think, listen, I respect the YouTubers that put the work in every day and show up, you know, and they've built a following. I respect them, because it's not easy to do, you know. I think what I have in my positive column, I would say, something that takes me on par or even better than a lot of them, is that I'm starting to put the work in, but obviously I've got the added incentive of playing, coaching, and managing, So I've done a lot in terms of watching, playing, and coaching football, and my knowledge in football is, I believe, second to none because, again, football's just what I know. You know, you guys can ask me anything about football, and I can just give you the answer just like that because it's just what I know. So I think what takes me, I believe, in the future above them is my knowledge, really, you know. And again, respect to all of them for putting the work in because it's not easy, and they've obviously built up a following, and that's what I'm trying to do now with you guys. So again, if you guys enjoy the content, which I know a lot of you do, and you show up every day, that's all that matters. You know, I don't care if I've got 5 people here, 6 people here. You know, the ones that show up every day and they're interacting, like you guys make it, you know. And again, if more people want to come on board and they respect what I'm saying, you know, and they interact, then more the merrier, really. But as I said, you guys show up every day, and it's much appreciated because I said you guys keep the content going. So yeah, as I said, man, big up to yourselves. But yeah, guys, as I said, if you haven't smashed the like button, make sure you do. Sub to the channel. Keep your comments coming in as well after the stream has ended. And guys, as always, I'll be back tomorrow. Obviously, I'm gonna schedule the stream tomorrow at some point. So yeah, keep an eye on that. Make sure your notifications are on. And as I said, big up yourselves each and every time. And yeah, I'm gonna catch you guys tomorrow. Take it easy.